So it's time to start. So once more, hello, welcome to our DEFINE conference, where we will talk about financial education in today's digital era. I would like to say hello to our speakers at today's conference. I would like to say hello to DEFINE consortium partners, and especially I would say hello to all who took your time to join at our conference today. The conference is part of the DEFINE European Erasmus Plus project, the project on digitalized financial education for seniors. And as we are approaching to the end with this project, we would like to use this opportunity to increase the awareness about the project, about the project results and other important things related to the project. Although the conference is online, we will make sure that you will enjoy it. And we are also live streaming, so anyone who is interested can follow the conference also on the YouTube channel of the Institute for Banking and Insurance Industry at FH Ioanneo. You saw the agenda, and I'm glad that we are able to have so many excellent speakers at our conference. And just some technical details.
Packe ich jetzt irgendwo, am besten mit einem Ladekabel. Wie viele sind überhaupt online? Ist Felix überhaupt online, der Arsch? Ich glaube nicht.
Perhaps if everyone can switch off the microphone, because then I think it's more easy for everyone. So for technical details, I would kindly ask you to state the questions that you have in the chat, and then I will read them after each presentation so that each speaker can answer them immediately. As you saw in the agenda, it was planned that Senior Lecturer Dr. Lilia Terzieva start with her presentation, but unfortunately she could not join us today. Therefore, she sent a video presentation and we will watch it later. Instead, for the beginning, we would like to give you a short introduction to the DEFINE project. So we would like to give you a clear picture why we actually organized this conference today. So I would like to give the floor to our colleague, Thomas Narovec from Wirtschaftskammer Austria, one of the partners in DEFINE project, to present general information about DEFINE project. Thomas, please.
So thank you very much, Anita. A very warm welcome to the conference and a good morning from Graz, Austria. I'm Thomas Narovec, as Anita said. I'm from the Chamber of Economics Styria in Graz, based in Graz. And I would like to give you a quick introduction into our project. So what is planned today? I give you first a little kind of warm-up, so general information and background about the project. Why did we do this project? What were our ideas, and who is taking part? Who is the consortium? Then I want to present you the main project results that we have achieved to date, one of the main project results is the DEFINE training toolkit that we developed. So I also want to introduce the toolkit to you. And then this should take around 20 minutes, I would say. We will then split the program. So that means that the second part of the presentation, so when we dive a little bit deeper into the training toolkit, will be held at the end of the conference, so at around 12 o'clock. More or less. So we will then have a closer look on the contents that we have developed for seniors to raise their digital financial literacy. And we will also have a look at the implementation that we did, so how we piloted the training in Austria and in all the other participating European countries. And finally, we also will give you some details about where to find the results of the projects and how to join our online community on Facebook. All right, so that's the plan. The DEFINE project, the long name Digital Financial Education for Seniors, interactive scenario gaming solutions for increasing online financial literacy of seniors. This is the long title. It's an Erasmus Plus strategic partnership, so funded by the European Commission. The coordinator is the FH Joanneum, University of Applied Sciences based in Graz. It's a partnership of 7 partner organizations from 6 EU countries. And yeah, it ends this month. It was extended because of the COVID-19 pandemic, half a year. We had a couple of challenges to overcome to deliver all the activities that were planned, but we made it, and we're very happy to be here online with you today. Yeah, so that's the brief general information about the project. Who are the partner institutions? Interesting to know. So FH Joanneum, I already said that. Then Volkshochschule Hannover, the Volkshochschulen in Germany, Austria, and also in the northern countries are very well-known adult education providers. This is one from the north of Germany. Renate is here today with us. Then the University of Alicante, a pretty big university from the southeast of Spain, is also here with us, Noelia, today. Then we have eSeniors, specialized NGO from France, from Paris. They're also here with us today. Then Associazione Progetto Marconi from Italy. Valeria is here with us today. Then Viteco, also an organization from Italy, from the south, who's our technical partner who developed the games with us. And then finally us, the Wirtschaftskammer Steiermark, as one of the 9 regional chambers of economics, representatives of the Austrian economy. All right, let's move on. What was the background? What was the idea of why did we do this project? I mean, I don't have to stress the developments that are currently framing our nowadays societies and economies. It's on the one hand, the demographic change. So people are getting older. We have decreasing birth rates in most of the Western countries. So that means that our societies are not growing. So the demographic pyramid changes. We will have more and more older people participating in society longer, hopefully healthy and happy. And we also have on the other side a strong digitization in many areas of our society and our economy. So businesses are changing. And this is also something that affects now for a longer period the financial business field. So financial services are changing and have changed. And yeah, maybe just a quick sign for me, more a symbolic sign that I saw a couple of weeks ago. You know, as some guys also in Europe do, we watch the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, the biggest sport event in the world, I would say. And as you know, the Super Bowl is a very commercial event with a lot of commercials. And what I found really intriguing was that many of the commercials shown there were targeted on financial issues. So one commercial, for example, or one kind of commercials I saw was around tax and how to save taxes in the US. And the other commercial was targeted towards cryptocurrency trading. So that means that the financial businesses in the US, at least for me, are changing heavily and are trying to push cryptocurrency targeting. This is just one example how the financial business field is changing. And I think it was just interesting to know what's happening there. So this change of financial services from traditional services, traditional banking to digital services is something that will also affect many people. And our project wants to make a contribution to raise the digital and financial education and literacy of seniors. So we want to upskill them and enable them to participate successfully. So we want to upgrade senior skills. We want to help them to successfully handle online financial management and services, increase their participation at financial markets, and also equip them with the knowledge and the skills to minimize their personal disadvantages and to help them to prevent from fraud or recognize fraud and react accordingly. So what are the target groups of the projects? So mainly the seniors, people above 60 years interested in online financial management services and interested to upskill. Then obviously adult education, training providers and centers, senior associations, federations, trade unions, and also non-governmental and and other MPOs working in the field of adult education and seniors. What are the main products that we have developed? So the main product is the Define Training Toolkit. I will come to that later. It's an online and offline training offer. And then we also developed a transferability and evaluation handbook, which is something that should help to transfer the results of this project, the outcomes, to Europe and to interested adult education organizations, and possibly also to other target groups, as we strongly believe that what we have developed is something that also can be used by other target groups, or for other target groups as well. Right, so we had 4 main products that helped us to develop the training program, or one of the products is the training program. But what we first did is we wanted to find out what is really needed to develop such a training offer. So we did research on the knowledge of seniors, on their needs and their interests. We developed research methodology. We implemented several instruments or several research practices. So we did a desk research to find out what is currently offered in the field of digital financial education in the European countries. We did focus groups with seniors and experts, and we also made an online survey. And the final outcome here were country reports and then a common report that informed our further developments. And as you see here on the right side of the slides, it was interesting that seniors were eager to get more know-how how to keep personal information safe. So safety was an issue. They also wanted to learn more how to save money. So money management was an issue. And as you see here, nice in this word cloud, digitalization is something that was important to them. Trust, and also help to orient themselves in this new digital world. In the next step, out of these findings from the first result from this report, we developed the framework for the training. So we developed a skills card, which you see here. So it's something that we based on different common European frameworks for digital education. One is the DIGCOMP EDU module, and the other one is the European qualification framework. So we based it on the levels 2 to 3. And the skills card was also, so it included the definition of the knowledge, what should the seniors know. It included the definition of cognitive and practical skills, what they can do after they were trained. It also defined the digital skills that we wanted to teach and to transport. So what they can really do then. And the competencies, so on a higher level, how responsible and self-reliant they can then do what they can do after they were trained. So at the end, we had a curriculum that we developed and a definition of the structure of our training with the course modules. The training toolkit. A training toolkit consists of, we developed templates for the toolkit. We developed the toolkit, which is training materials and resources, including online games. Then in the next step, we tried to find participants and we implemented pilot trainings. We will come to that later. We developed the training evaluation methodology. And we also developed a certification for the participation. We then developed at the end, and this is something we're still finalizing at the moment, but we're very close to ticking off this checkbox as well, the transferability handbook, where we define the criteria that are important to successfully transfer the training, the learnings from our pilot trainings, and this transferability handbook consists advice and information about all the important phases of implementing the training. So how to communicate this offer, how to prepare the offer, how to deliver it, and finally, what kind of follow-up activities are needed for a successful implementation. Okay, I will now try to show you the promotional video for the training program. I hope that, may I just first stop again the sharing. I hope that I'm also sharing the sound. Let me just check. I think now I'm doing it. All right, so fingers crossed that the video is working. Let's go. You could hear and see the video properly via our Zoom conference. I'm sorry, this was not intended. My laptop is a little bit slow, so.
Yes, the sound is coming and going. Maybe your connection is weak. I don't know.
I'm impatient. Yeah, it's not reacting, so sorry. Okay, I hope this works now. Right, sorry for the inconvenience. Didn't have a joke at hand to tell, so I hope now it works again. Right, so the structure of the training toolkit to end here. It's the skills card and the curriculum as the basis, as the foundation. It's the training materials. So for all of the modules that we have developed, we have different training materials, PowerPoint slides, very detailed PowerPoint slides, as well as documents for the trainers. So training guides for the trainers. We have then online games for every module, which you will see a little bit later at the end of the conference. And we also have developed the solutions for the games to follow. And all these materials were translated in all the partner countries. So they're available in English, German, Italian, French, and Spanish language. Yeah, so this was a quick wrap up of the DEFINE project and its outcomes, its results. And now I think we still have some time left for questions and answers about the project. Representatives from all the project partners are here. I'm also available. So yeah, if you have a question, please just unmute your microphone or write it into the chat. And yeah, let's have a conversation, I would say. I'll quickly have a look at the chat. Okay. There's no questions yet. I heard someone unmuting his microphone.
It was just me thanking you for your presentation.
Thank you, Valeria. That's nice.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I think we have enough opportunity to discuss also later about our project. So we will have a lot of time to discuss all the questions that will arise during the conference today. So please, whatever you have to ask, just write in the chat or ask us later. We are here to really give you as much details on our project as we can. And now we can continue with our conference. Thank you once more, Thomas. And we will proceed with the next lecture. I'm welcoming University Professor Dr. Bettina Fuhrmann, Director of the Institute for Business Education, Vienna University of Economics and Business from Austria. Welcome, and please present us the importance of financial literacy.
Thank you very much for this very nice introduction and also for the invitation to join your conference and to give a short presentation, a short talk on the importance of financial literacy. I think I may already share my screen, right? I will try. And I think it has worked.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, good. And I think you're able to see the full screen of my slides now, correct? Yes. Very good. Thank you very much. Yes, so I've put some information together in order to cover the topic of the importance of financial literacy. And whenever you feel that there's a point that you would like to know more about, please do not hesitate to either ask me in the middle of the presentation or at the end of the presentation, or also contact me after the presentation via email, for example, because the topic of financial literacy, of course, is so multifaceted and so complex that it's not possible to cover each and every interesting detail in half an hour, but I'll try to give you an overview of some important questions and insights that we have from research. So first of all, I think there is little doubt and little debate on the question whether financial literacy is a life skill. And the OECD, which has already put a focus on financial literacy many years ago and has ongoing initiatives and research, has stressed the fact that financial literacy is a life skill for everybody, for young people, for the elderly, for those who are employed, for those who are unemployed. So no matter what your personal and your professional situation is, financial literacy is a skill that you need each and every day with a lot of situations that you find yourself in. Of course, especially for young people, because they still have their whole financial life ahead of them, but also for people in other stages of their lives, because there are always financial questions that they need to answer and always financial challenges that they need to take and problems that they need to tackle. So there are mainly 4 questions that I would like to address in my presentation. The first one being, what is financial literacy, which you might know already, I know that, but on the other hand, it's important to remember that it's a very broad field, a very complex topic, and to see that there is a lot to it, not just knowledge, but of course also knowledge. Then the second question being, does financial literacy really make a difference? I mean, there are a lot of people out there who know very little about money and still are doing well. So does financial literacy really make a difference? Can financial literacy be taught? That would be my third question that I want to address. And then finally, who can teach financial literacy and how? And this is something that I can just mention very briefly, but still maybe we can get engaged in some discussion, and at least I will be able to give you some ideas, and then you can of course discuss that question also later on during your conference and also in your professional life. So I would like to start with a very brief look at what financial literacy is, and there's not just one definition for that. So it's very important to keep in mind that there are many approaches towards the construct financial literacy, but the one that most people refer to is the definition that the OECD has developed, and it shows very well that it's not just knowledge, but it's more than financial knowledge that makes financial literacy and that makes a person financially literate. It's being financially aware that there is a problem, that there is a challenge that I have to take, and there are some decisions to be made, and I need to be clever and wise how I make that decision. Then, of course, financial skills around making these decisions, attitudes that can support certain decisions, and financial behaviors that you also need to show as a financially literate person in order to make sound financial decisions and finally achieve financial well-being. Financial well-being not meaning that you try to gain as much money as possible. This is not what is meant by the OECD when they talk about financial well-being, but financial well-being meaning that you are still able to manage your own finances, that you do not need support for that, or that you don't have too little means to cover your costs. Yeah? Financial well-being meaning that you are able to manage your own finances yourself and to get along as well as possible. Yeah, so it's rather about independence than about wealth. So that's one way to have a look at financial literacy. And as I have already mentioned, most research projects, most literature that you can find refers in some way to that definition. So we'll also stick to it. Then maybe it's interesting to see what people actually know about money. And although there's an abundance of research on that, you will see that actually we do not know too much about it. Yeah? The OECD has also developed an initiative that is called Measuring Financial Literacy. It's a research program that has been in place for some years, and they repeatedly encourage countries to collect data and to analyze the data and to see how financial literacy of the population develops. And what I can show you very briefly is what we found for Austrian people, what level of financial knowledge they have achieved. And alongside knowledge also, there is some data on attitudes and on behavior, because as you have seen, these are also elements of financial literacy. And, you know, I don't really want to put you on a test here, but if you want to, you can test yourself. And I show you some questions that have been used in order to measure the level of financial knowledge. And you will see these are the first two questions that were used. They are not too complex, not too difficult. So the first question being just a question of making a very simple calculation. 5 brothers are given a gift of 1,000 euros. If the brothers have to share the money equally, how much does each one get? So it's just a division. So even an 8 or 9 year old pupil should be able to do that. But on the other hand, if you want to know more about the skills of a population, it might be interesting to see if numeracy is established within the population. And this is a question that would help you to gain an idea if people are able to make simple calculations. The second question addresses the topic of inflation. So if the brothers have to wait 1 year to get their share of the 1,000 euros, which of course is 200 euros per brother, and inflation stays at 2%, in 1 year's time, would they be able to buy more than today, less than today, or just as much as today? And of course, the correct answer is they would be able to buy less than today. Although, of course, you might say, well, it depends on what they want to buy. So there are, of course, some goods that might have become less expensive. But apart from that objection, normally, if they buy a large number of products and with inflation being at 2%, it's very probable that they would be able only to buy less than today. So there are other questions covering, for example, real interest rate, which is very similar. So if the interest rate is 1% and inflation is 2%, after 1 year, how much would you be able to buy? And it's pretty much the same than the second question. So again, it would be less than today. Also, a rather simple question about interest. You lend 25 euros to a friend one evening and he gives you 25 euros back the next day. How much interest has he paid on this loan? So the interest is 0 euros, so didn't pay any interest. So then another question on interest after 1 year. So you put 100 euros in a savings account with an interest rate of 2%. How much money would be in the account at the end of the first year? So you only need to calculate the interest. You don't have to take taxes into consideration or some other expenses that you might have. So the correct answer would be 102 euros because it's the capital, the 100 euros plus the interest of 2 euros. And we will see how many people were able to answer that correct. Then the next question covers compound interest. It's about the interest after 5 years. How much would there be in the account at the end of 5 years? You don't put any additional money in, you don't withdraw any money. So with compound interest, of course, you would have more than 110 euros at the end of a time period of 5 years. So let's see how people tackle this question. And then a question that was added, I think, only in Austria. It's not one of the original OECD questions, but we found it pretty interesting to add this question, because you know there are a lot of people in Austria who used foreign currency loans. They were pretty much surprised when the exchange rate of the euro and the Swiss franc then changed, and the debt became considerably more important, a higher sum of loan, because the exchange rate had changed. So there was another question on the exchange rate. You have taken out a loan in Swiss francs, then the exchange rate of the euro depreciates against the Swiss franc. What happens to the amount of euro that you owe? And of course it increases. But that was the question. Does it increase? Does it stay exactly the same, or does it decrease? Then if interest rates rise, what will typically happen to bond prices? Will they rise? Will they fall? Will they stay the same, or is there no relationship whatsoever? Normally bond prices will fall, because if interest rates rise, then there will be bonds that are more attractive to investors, and the existing bonds will be less attractive, and therefore the prices will fall because they are less attractive, and fewer people will try to buy these bonds. And then finally, 3 true or false questions. Is it true or false that an investment with a high return is likely to be high risk? This is of course true. Then is it true or false that high inflation means that the cost of living is increasing rapidly? Again, this is true. And then finally, is it true or false that it is usually possible to reduce the risk of investing in the stock market by buying a wide range of stocks and shares? And again, this is true. So if you think, well, these questions are not too difficult, then I would agree. And you will also see that even if a person is able to answer all these questions correctly, you still can't tell if this person is able to solve a complex financial problem, or to make a financial decision in a reasonable way. Yeah, so if you think about selecting a loan, or maybe selecting an insurance for a certain risk, or to invest money, still you would be, you should know a lot more than what was covered in these 11 questions. But still, it's an indicator of how much people know, even if not all relevant areas of financial knowledge are covered. And these are the results for the Austrian population, data that was collected at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, and there has been another round of survey a few years later with similar results, slightly better results, but basically similar results. So as more data were gathered in 2014, I still show you these results, still knowing there are more recent results, but they do not differ significantly from these results. So from the 11 questions on financial knowledge that were asked, people were able to answer, most people were able to answer 8 or 9 questions correctly. The mean was 7.29 questions. The median was 8. And you see that most people are able to answer quite a lot of questions. So at first glance, you would be pretty satisfied with the result, saying, well, most of the respondents know quite a lot of correct answers. This is true, but still please keep in mind what kind of questions were used, what topics were covered, and I would also like to draw your attention to the around 20% of the respondents who knew very little, and very, very little is up to 5 questions. because you have seen the questions. That's the reason why I showed you the questions. The questions were not too difficult. They were pretty basic, and still there are around 20% of a population of a highly developed country that is not able to answer at least half of the questions correctly. And I think you will see a little bit later, but that these people still think that they know a lot. And that's the dangerous combination here, that there are people who really know very, very little, but still think they know quite a lot. So their self-assessment of their knowledge is pretty biased, because they think that they are quite knowledgeable, but they aren't. And then, of course, you need to fear that these people will make very poor financial decisions. But we will come back to that later. You can see which questions could be answered by most of the respondents, like making the division, like telling that there was zero interest by giving 25 euros and getting 25 euros back. Also, the relationship between risk and the return, the true or false question, was answered correctly by most respondents, but still, of course, you have quite a high chance of guessing the correct answer if it's just a true or false question. So you also need to keep that in mind. Also, the true or false question on the cost of living was answered correctly by 84% of the respondents. And then you see a sharp decline of the percentage of correct answers. The real interest rate is still told correctly by 71% of the respondents, which may still be considered fine. Yeah, but remember the question: how much is the interest after 1 year? The €2 interest for 100 euros capital on an account, and only 2/3 of the respondents were able to make that calculation. And it's not even a difficult calculation, because if it's the interest for exactly 1 year, it's not even calculating interest. It's just a percentage. It's just 2% of 100, and you don't need to consider the time factor here. Yeah, and then with inflation, you still have you actually had 3 questions on inflation, and the more complex the question was, the lower the rate of correct answers is. So the most complex question on inflation was answered correctly by just 65% of the respondents, whereas there are 84% who knew that a high inflation rate means a high cost of living. Yeah, but a considerable lower percentage of people who were able to answer a more complex question on inflation correctly. And then you see which questions were most difficult for the respondents. The question on risk diversification, although it was a simple true-false question. The exchange rate question, so just half of the respondents was able to answer that correctly. Compound interest is very difficult to understand for a lot of people, and the relationship between the interest, the level of interest, and bond prices is known only by around 20% of the people. So you see, although all these questions were rather basic, not too complex, not too difficult, there are quite a number of questions where people struggle finding the correct answer. So you see, the first 4 questions were pretty easy. And then there is a number of questions that can be answered by, well, still the majority, but a growing number of people who have no idea. And then, of course, there are questions that are difficult for most respondents. So you can say that obviously there are knowledge gaps within the population, and we also try to find out which factors explain best how much is known. And I don't want to go into details here in this regression analysis that we carried out, but you see that gender is a topic here, because male respondents are able to answer more questions correctly than female respondents. But please keep in mind that the difference altogether is just half a question. Yeah, so that might be statistically significant, but in reality, if you meet a person, you can't really tell about that person, if this person is financially literate or not, just by knowing the gender of this person. Yeah? So there is a difference, and of course we should address this difference, but you should also not over-interpret this difference. You see that age matters. So we found that the highest level of financial literacy can be found with people who are in their 50s. Yeah, so they obviously have already some experience in financial matters, and the younger ones know significantly less, but also people older than, let's say, 60, they also know significantly less than people who are so-called middle agers, or who are in the middle of their professional lives. Also, the level of schooling makes a difference. So the higher the education level is, the higher the level of financial knowledge is. Household income also plays a role, a minor role, but still. And self-employed people knew a bit more than people who were part-time employed or not employed at all, or employed but not self-employed. Okay, so we see gender, age, and level of education range among the most important factors explaining the level of knowledge. Does financial literacy, especially the level of knowledge, does it even make a difference in how people are doing in their lives? So are they really better off if they know more? Yeah, so that's a question that you can also hear from time to time. And if you have a look at the research, you see very clearly that there is a relationship between how much people know and how they are doing, how they are tackling their financial problems, the financial challenges in their lives. For example, in research, we found positive correlations between financial knowledge and if people were saving money, and how many financial products they used, and how they tried to gain knowledge about these products and get more information about these products. So they also use a higher number of information sources than people who have less financial knowledge. They tend to do more for saving for their retirement, and they also tend to use more favorable conditions and terms, and they avoid unfavorable ones. Yeah? People with a higher level of financial knowledge also would avoid debt, especially debt that can be harmful, like debts that they would take for going on holidays or for some consumption, and not for investing in housing, for example, or in their own education. You need to consider that correlations are not always very high. And of course, the causality is not always clear. Yeah, you will see later that of course, these are effects that are interrelated. So it's sometimes difficult to interpret the correlations that can be found. But we have seen in the Austrian OECD data that knowledge as well as certain financial attitudes and behaviors contribute to the explanation of financial well-being. Financial well-being being financial resilience. So how long would you be able to carry on even if the main source of income would be taken away? Yeah, so even if you lost your main source of income, how long would you be able to survive financially? Yeah, how long would you be able to cover your cost of living? Yeah. And we saw that knowledge contributes significantly to this understanding of financial well-being, to this understanding of financial resilience. But of course, as I have already mentioned, these factors, they are interlinked somehow, and they support each other. Yeah. So if you have a higher level of knowledge, you would also tend to be more interested in financial matters, and you would be more motivated to deal with financial matters and try to solve your financial problems the best way you can. Therefore, by doing so, of course, you gain more experience. And by gaining more experience, you also improve your self-efficacy, meaning how you self-assess your ability to tackle financial problems. And a higher self-efficacy in financial literacy means that you acquire more knowledge, you gain more experience, you become more money-wise, which of course then improves your level of knowledge. So it's a circle, yeah? And all these elements, they support each other. So I guess for most people, a good starting point would be to be more knowledgeable, because with knowledge very often comes interest, becomes self-efficacy, becomes motivation, and therefore again more knowledge. Can financial literacy be taught? A lot of people think that it's parents who should teach financial literacy, and in a perfect world this would be the case. But unfortunately, we don't live in such a world, but we see that a lot of adults, they have troubles understanding financial matters themselves. So how would they be able to foster financial literacy of their children? So if you want to make a difference, if you want to make people more knowledgeable, more financially literate, then you can't just rely on parents. In the best case, parents can support your efforts, but you cannot rely only on parents to make financially literate young people. And we see that financial literacy can be taught. There are studies and meta-analysis that stress and that support the idea that financial literacy can be taught. And in a very large number of experiments, you could see that especially knowledge can be supported pretty easily, at least more easily than behavior and attitudes. Yeah, so of course it depends on how you teach financial literacy, on how you try to support financial knowledge and financial skills and behaviors, and see what the short-term effect is and the long-term effect of this initiative is. Yeah? The more you do, the more comprehensive an initiative is, the higher the effect will finally be. So if it's just, you know, a webinar of a few hours, if it's just a one-time occasion where you teach people some aspect of financial literacy, then of course you can't expect this initiative to have a very large long-term effect. That would be great, but it's not very likely. But the more you invest, the more time you have, and the more opportunities you have to teach people, to inform people, to work with them, of course, the higher the effect will be. So finally, financial literacy can be called an important life skill. That's not an exaggeration. It makes a large difference for people, whether they know something about financial matters or they don't. And it will become even more important in the future with more complex financial products, with more channels where people can buy financial products and are able to engage in financial investment. Young people lack very important financial knowledge. We've seen that in our data. And we've also seen that most of them would be interested to learn more. And pretty much the same is true for people at the end of their professional lives, just before they enter the stage of retirement, because maybe they see that they won't be able to make ends meet. And they also see how fast the financial sector is evolving and developing, and that it's difficult for them to keep up to that speed. Also, people nearing the phase of retirement, they also need support, especially with their financial planning, with their retirement savings, and with technical support, because more and more financial products are digital. Therefore, there's a need for more financial education at schools as well as at the workplace. I think it's also important to see that there's an opportunity to reach quite a large number of people at the workplace. And financial education needs to create so-called teachable moments, meaning to reach people when they are open to think about financial questions and to learn about financial matters. For example, they would be most willing to learn more about loans and different kinds of credit when they need to gain financial funds themselves, for example, to buy a home. Then, of course, that would be a teachable moment for them. But I think if financial education is developed well, you are able to create such teachable moments even before that, by showing people how they profit from knowing more and how they can prepare for situations that lie ahead in the future. So that was a very quick overview of some questions on financial literacy that I think are important and are heatedly debated in the field of financial literacy. I hope that this presentation was interesting to you. And if we have some time left and you have some questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think your presentation showed us even more the importance of our DEFINE project as one of the initiatives that supports the increase of the financial skills and so on. So thank you very much. I think the presentation was really interesting for all of us. And I'm asking all the participants, is there any question? I didn't see anything in the chat, but perhaps.
Yeah, there's someone raising their hand. I think a woman from Germany.
Yeah, Miss Susanne, please.
Yeah, hello from Hanover. Thank you very much, Professor Fuhrmann, for your report, which was really, really interesting. And I would like to just stress out two things you mentioned. At VHS in Hanover, we also have a second chance school, and we are dealing with young people who have at high rates debts in already a very young age, because they just make contracts without ever checking anything, for example, for mobile phones. And the other thing which is really funny and absurd is if you want to get a loan in Germany, you have to present a very good score. So there's a rating agency that rates your reliability to pay back loans. And the funny thing is that your even if you're high educated and you have good income, your score won't be as high if you never made debts. Yes. So if you never took any loans, you're not rated as high as somebody who already made debts.
Really? Yes. That's really absurd. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Well, I think yeah, please go ahead.
The algorithm, how they calculate the score is top secret, but you can see quite clearly which factors come into place. And at that point, it is really the question, have you taken loans before and did you pay them back or not? And if you had never taken a loan, you're not as reliable as somebody who already had done so.
That's really absurd.
That's absurd.
That's really absurd.
It is.
Yeah. But, you know, I think the situation is pretty similar in Austria, especially as far as the young people are concerned who are already deeply in debt. Yeah, so really have managed, I don't know how, to have 30,000 euros of debt at a very young age, just by buying whatever they want, taking consumer credit, buying mobile phones, having more than just one mobile phone for whatever reason. Yeah, so that's really alarming. Yeah, and I think what is also alarming is that there are some consumer credits that you don't have to, you know, there are no securities for that kinds of loans. Yeah, so these are loans up to, I think, 50,000 euros. And sometimes you can get such credit very quickly, and you can also apply for that online. And I was really shocked when I learned from some people who work at a bank that most applications for such consumer credit are submitted in the middle of the night, between 1 and 3 a.m. Yeah, so that's obviously the time of the night when people think about what they would like to have, what they would like to buy. And then, of course, maybe they have already had 1 or 2 beers and feel stronger than they usually feel, and then they apply for consumer credit and very often get it, because you don't need any collateral or anything else in order to get such credit. And that's I think really, that's very disturbing. I found it very shocking to hear that.
But I have the suspicion they really focus on this target group.
Yeah, possibly they do.
So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
I have another question also concerning the, let's say, technological opportunities more than their obstacles or their threats. Do you think that that the mobile banking apps and also let's say budgeting and financial apps that are out there on your smartphone, they also bring along the opportunity to get a better transparency about your finances? Yeah? So with their kind of graphs that they offer about how you spend your money, or if you think of apps that, for example, calculate for you a daily budget, things like that, and you can also track your spendings and track your incomes. Do you believe that these apps, or do you maybe have already knowledge or research findings that these apps make a difference or can really make a contribution to making people more financially literate?
That's an interesting question. I don't know any research on that question, but I think some research should be done in order to learn more about that. So very good question. I can just tell you what I think, what I think the case is. I think these apps can support you and can help you develop awareness of some financial misbalance that you have. But I still think that you need some support to see it. Yeah? And of course, the individual circumstances can be very different from person to person. So what might be okay for one person might be too much for another one. Yeah, and therefore I think that it's very hard to create an app that would be a good support for everyone. Yeah, so but maybe over time, the system could also be learning and see what factors contribute to your getting along with your money and being fine with the money that you have, and which factors contribute to troubles. Maybe there can be some learning systems in that area as well. But apart from that, I think what we should do is to raise awareness of people that it's not sufficient to have more money than you spend, but still have a closer look at where your money comes from and what you do with your money. So have not only a quantitative look at your finances, but also a qualitative look at your finances. Yeah, seeing how do I make my money? Where is my money coming from? What other opportunities would I have with what I have learned and what I'm interested in? It's especially young women do not always consider all the opportunities that they have for a number of reasons. And also with the expenses, it's the same thing. Even if you don't spend more money than you have, still it's worthwhile having a look at what you spend it for. So even if your app tells you you're fine because there's money left at the end of the month, it would be, I think, worthwhile having a look at your expenses and still consider, what am I buying? Why am I buying that? What are my opportunity costs here? Yeah. I mean, you always have opportunity cost. Yeah? Still, if you're financially fine, it's very rewarding to have a look at what you spend your money for and how it could be spent alternatively. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of economic thought behind being financially literate, and we should foster that more in people, even if they are not bankrupt.
Thank you. Very interesting thoughts.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question? No? Okay, thank you. And now we will proceed with the speech of Ms. Laura Iturriaga Alcocer, Responsible Banking Santander España, Spain. And Ms. Iturriaga Alcocer, please introduce us with the digitization and financial literacy.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you. Thank you for your invitation, and congratulations for the previous talk. It was super interesting. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if it's possible. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, we see.
Yes, okay. So good morning, everyone. My name is Laura Iturriaga. I work in the responsible banking area of Banco Santander, where we handle all matters related to sustainability. So before going into the subject of digitization, I would like to put in context about the importance of financial inclusion as a banking entity that we are. So as you can imagine, one of our strategic pillars in financial empowerment, and note that last year we were awarded with Euromoney Award as the best bank in the world in financial inclusion. So the goal of the group financially empowered 10 million people around the world between 2019 and 2025 through 3 key lines of action. The first one is access. where we help people access and use basic financial services through payment platforms and cash services in remote or sparsely populated communities. The second one is financing. We provide tailor-made financial for individual and SMEs with major difficulties in obtaining credit that are subject to financial difficulties. And the third one, and where we are going to focus on, is the resilience. That we help people to improve their financial knowledge, making economic concepts more understandable, so that they are capable of making informed decisions. Only 2021, more than 1.3 million people were benefited from the entity's financial training programs around the world. So we are impacting in 6 of the 70 Sustainable Development Goals. And regarding this last point of resilience, and where we are going to focus, it's important to take into account that financial education is one of the 10 principles of the consumer protection policy. In Spain, according to 2020 survey of financial competences carried out by the Bank of Spain, more than 75% of the Spanish population recognize that they must improve their knowledge of financial matters. In addition, the latest PISA report places Spain below the OECD average in relation to financial knowledge. So given this need to improve people's financial health, financial education has become a fundamental pillar for financial inclusion, since it helps people make better decisions about how to manage their money responsibly and effectively, fostering the habit of saving and spending planning, while contributing to financial stability and consumer protection. So for this reason, from Santander, Spain, I would like to highlight our principal project of financial education that is called Finanzas para Mortales, with 10 years of experience and developed in collaboration with the Santander Financial Institute and the University of Cantabria through the USAID Foundation. The program has been recognized as one of the most important financial education programs in the country by the Bank of Spain and the National Securities Market Commission. And it's about training sessions, face-to-face and virtual, and they are given by professionals, volunteers from the bank, from Santander. We have currently more than 1,300 volunteers who are the key of this project. And it's aimed at the most financially vulnerable groups, such as children, young people, the elderly, social entrepreneurs, or groups at risk of exclusion. Some of examples are the programs taught in NGOs, penitentiary institutions, schools, universities, or, for example, centers of elderly. And since 2012, we have been constantly evolving, and we have reinforced the value proposition of this program in order to increase its impact and ensure that financial education reaches a greater number of people. To this, we work around 3 axes. The first one is the extension of beneficiaries. The second one is the promotion of volunteering. They are the cornerstone of our financial education proposal. And the third one, and I think is one of the most important one, is the digitization and creation of new materials, such as applications, webinars, or training fields. So digitization, why is so important? The COVID crisis, we all know that, has accelerated the digitization of many sectors, including education and training. And nowadays, digital education is more relevant than ever. In the case of financial education, the importance of its digital delivery is growing at the same pace as the digitization of other files. So digital tools are urgently needed to help ensure that all target audiences, in particular those who are more vulnerable, have access to financial literacy resources. related to financial technology, the exponential growth that we are living has changed the way people relate to their finances. For example, payments are made with the phone, investments decisions are taken, financial products are acquired, and even financial advice is sought through digital solutions. So while digitization has a lot of advantages and has made financial operations easier and more accessible and faster, it can sometimes lead to counterproductive financial results and other related risks. So why this happening? Why these risks are happening? So there are three main factors that are increasing this digital divide in finances. The first one is the lack of connectivity. I mean, regarding this topic, according to the warning issued in 2019 by the International Telecommunications Union, nearly half of the world population, that is around 3.6 billion of people, does not even have access to an internet connection. That's an impressive information, I think. The second one is the lack of digital devices. In this area, it's important to consider the gap caused by the commercialization of electronic devices with internet access due to the high cost and increasing complexity and sophistication of such devices, as it leaves out vulnerable groups. And the third one, the lack of digital skills, either in general terms or related to finance. In terms of finance, digital education is an increasingly important tool nowadays due to the fast spread of technology, the sophistication of financial products, and the rise of alternative and unregulated financial services and the risk that come with them. For example, Bitcoin and so on. So digital financial education can be seen as a learning process that allows a person to acquire the skills needed to understand and harness the potential of digital financial products and services, and to make better financial decisions overall. So related to these skills, what are the skills needed to use digital financial products and services? So digital financial education is likely to become increasingly important in this digital age. It has been agreed upon by a wide range of stakeholders that developing a framework for digital skills is essential in order to move towards a common path to reduce digital gaps, which have such a high impact on financial inclusion, exclusion, and financial vulnerability. Although having basic financial education concepts, such as basic financial planning or debt control, is essential prior to accessing digital financial products. Specific digital financial literacy is required to successfully use such products. So the following list are some of the main digital financial skills to be developed in the short and medium terms. Sorry. The first one is the digital planning. Digital financial planning is the use of digital planning tools and the simulators that can enhance financial planning. The second one, and one of the most important one with the digital risk, is cybersecurity, is the knowledge and skills to improve customers' awareness of the risks related to the unauthorized access to personal data by digital delinquents. The third one is the digital risk knowledge and management. Knowledge about the varied risk in the digital world and skills to manage them adequately. The fourth one is the use of electronic payment systems. I mean, skills related to the use of electronic systems for payment and knowledge about its characteristics and potential risks due to the increased number of payment apps and platforms. And the last one is the digital indebtedness, that is the debt control in the digital world, given the entrance of new operators in the system, and the ease of taking out digital loans. So as an example of what we have just seen, I would like to comment on the projects that we are developing at the bank around digital financial education. As many of you know, and as you may have read in the latest news, the senior group is one of the most affected collective in this topic. We have to keep in mind that almost 20% of the Spanish population, that is 9.2 million people, is over 65 years old. So digitization, which has experienced a boost since COVID, must take this increasingly collective into account. So at Banco Santander, we began the digital financial education sessions by collaborating in 2021 on the DEFINE project of the University of Alicante, where digital banking and cyber security sessions were given by our volunteers of Santander. And given the success of the project this year, we have launched the financial education program for the elderly to provide digital financial education sessions to the senior collective through all the country, around all the country. We have 13 territories and we work with all of them. So this is not an isolated initiative, but it's a part of our empowerment commitment to do everything possible as we can so that no one suffers financial inclusion. So definitely, and I'm done with my speech. I don't know if I was very fast. The financial sector has the resources and the obligation to create digital products and services, the expertise to provide financial education and promote financial inclusion. So the levers to influence stakeholders, and it can ensure that that biases that could marginalize more vulnerable populations are eliminated. So we have this power and we have this obligation to do. So we still have a lot of work to do, but I think that together we are on the right way. So thank you very much. I don't know if you have any doubt or question. I didn't have my contact here, but I can send you in the chat my email and my phone, and I will solve your questions or that as soon as I can.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? Is there anyone who would like to ask something to our?
I can share also my presentation. I don't know if we are going to send to you. I think it's.
Yeah, please send us your presentation, and we will spread it afterwards.
Perfect.
Thank you very much. And if there is any question that will appear later on, we will come back.
Yeah, I have to go because I have an urgent meeting because Ukraine. We are a little bit busy with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any question or doubt, I'm going to send you now my contact. So thank you very much and congratulations for this webinar.
Thank you
very much. So we sorry, now we have some free time. I would say we have 10 minutes to have our virtual coffee break. So please come back in 10 minutes. You don't need to log out, just stay here, switch off the camera, microphones and everything. And we are back in 10 minutes. Thank you. Hello. We will start again in 1 or 2 minutes. So I think we can continue. I hope you're all back. And I hope that you enjoyed the coffee, although it was a little bit short. But anyhow, we will continue with the speech from Professor Dr. Jaka Vadnjal, independent business consultant from Slovenia. We will listen about digitalization of retail banking, the 4 customer segments perspective. So Professor Vadnjal, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anita. Can you allow sharing my presentation, please? Because I'm informed that I cannot do it at the moment.
I think it should work now.
Yes, it looks like it works.
Yes, we already see.
Okay. Right. So hello, everyone, and thank you to the organizer for inviting me to this great conference. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to be here from the beginning, but from the Q&A session that was half an hour ago, I realized that there were quite many exciting things going on. So in my presentation, which is titled Digitalization of Retail Banking, the 4 customer segment perspective, which I agreed with Anita as organizer, I will rely basically on my experience, which was finished 2 years ago, among other things which I was doing in my life, and I've been around for quite some time. Basically, I was switching all the time between academia and, let's say, industry. And I spent 1 mandate as a CEO of a bank here in Slovenia. And as such, I was actually heavily faced with the challenges of the future banking, which, well, one buzzword for sure is digitalization. So everybody talks about this. This digitalization is heavily triggered by a lot of new disruptive players, which are around, to mention Revolut and guys like this. So when I stepped in back in 2015, I was told by many people that the banks will not be existing in a shape like they are in 2 to 3 years. Now it's been 7 years from that moment, and the banks are still around. And I don't see that many changes. So what I'll be talking here is... Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Professor Vadnjal, but we just see the first slide without the presentation.
Okay. Is it better now?
Now we see the second one, yeah. Perhaps
okay.
if you click on yeah.
I switched to the presenter's view, which obviously doesn't work here in the
Perhaps if you click on the presentation so that we see the whole, here.
Yeah. Let me go to the third slide. Is this now, did it change?
No, we just see the second one.
Okay. Because some you're still with one same slide, right?
We are at the second slide, but we see it anyhow, so it doesn't matter if we don't see it as a presentation, but we just didn't see other slides. So if you can just then move,
I'll stop sharing because and start sharing again. So what do you see now?
The second slide.
Okay. And if I move on.
Now we see the third one,
Okay. And if I go to presentation, do you see the third one?
Yeah, but it didn't change anything. So, but it is okay. We can see it.
I'll skip presentation mode and I'll just manually go on.
Yeah, super. Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't work, obviously. Okay. Nevertheless, most of my presentation will be based on my experience and my team's thinking from my banking times, because this was the period when we were forced as a bank to do some strategic changes, also because of the change of ownership and such. So a lot of exciting memories on that time, and I'll be happy to share. So marketing people could do that more sophisticated. What we did with our marketing team was basically we segmented our clients, our retail clients, into 4 segments, which I'll stick to in the second part of my presentation. And these were children, youngsters, active population, and elder people. Now, how we would define that? Children are mostly, really children who have their first bank account or saving account or whatever you call it opened by their parents. Maybe they would have their, coin box to put their coins in, but basically to help small kids learn about how saving important is. Then we have youngsters. These are defined as people who already start to do a little bit of their money management. It means that they maybe start working and start earning some money, and for this they would need a bank account and bank services. And on the other hand, they are allowed to take their spending decisions. So they control basically their money. But they are, whether high school students, university students, that kind of population. Then we have active population. These are basically people who are employed, and they are most active also as banking customers. This is the stage of the life cycle where when people, they start to organize their families. They need to organize their first home and such. So this is the period which may be quite a long one, 30, 40 years, when we generally all make most of our money, and we also spend most of our money. But in this period, we also need to take care about the next period when we are going to be old. Now that elder people as the 4 segments is basically retired people who are not active anymore, who do have certain income, who do have certain financial needs, but maybe these needs may not be in average that high as they are with active population. So housing loans are repaid, bigger spending is done, kids have left homes and they are on their own and such. Now we all know this story about fast changing demographics, which is the case for the pension systems basically everywhere in the Western world. And I would not stick to this, but the fact is that the population is growing older and older, and so is the case in the bank. You know? And we were watching this ratio, and from year to year we have had elder population with the bank, and this is not really a good case, because as you will see from one analysis 2 slides further, these elder people as a customer segment is of very questionable profitability for the bank. And in the end of the day, a bank is a business which needs to be profitable. But I'll come to that. So which are characteristics of the banking business? As I said, bank is a business as usual. We are in capitalism, and one of the paradigms is that there is some capital invested, and this capital needs some returns, which means that banks need to be profitable. On the other side, banks are also playing a role of a sort of critical infrastructure. They need to take care of certain things. Now, within this moment of Ukrainian crisis, we observed a little bit of the banking crisis over here in the region, because one bank, which used to be in the Russian ownership, ceased operating for 2 days, and it was already a certain, let's say, first seed of panicking felt in our country, so in Slovenia, but also in the region, in other countries where this bank is present. And the Banking Resolution Body, which is a part of European Central Bank, took over an immediate decision actually to put things in order. So banks are kind of very sensitive infrastructure, very, very highly regulated. On the other hand, they have to be profitable. Now, in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, we can all observe pressures on profitability or decreasing profitability of the banking sector, which are partly due to low interest margins. Low interest margins are partly due to the policy of the European Central Bank, but also partly due to the competition, which actually plays on very high level of information, which is very, 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 very easily spread to all the potential customers. On the other hand, banking business is not that differentiated that a certain bank would very easily compete with differentiated offer. So a price competition is always there, and price competition means that banks also need to reduce cost. The other part of decreasing profitability is regulatory demands, which are viable through higher and higher capital adequacy demands. Basel II started from 8%. Now, in average, we have doubled, which means that the bank has to have twice the quantity of equity for the same amount of loan granted to whatever type the customer segment. And the other regulatory demands is higher and higher back office demands, like anti-money laundering, compliance issues, different risk control, and stuff like this. So when I started my mandate, the ratio between front office and back office was 55% in favor of front office. When I ended, it was vice versa. So we had more people in the back office rather than in front office. So and back office is, of course, people who don't sell, where they're an overhead for in terms of banking of cost structure. So banking is a typical scale business, and as such, the magic word digitalization is a very convenient. So what we are going to do in the banking? Well, we'll digitalize everything, but it opens the whole set of other questions. Now, coming back to segments, the profitability matrix we did in our banks, it showed very clearly that the only really profitable segment of clients for the bank is that active population, right? Because, well, they do more on payments, they hire more loans, they would buy other products like insurance products in the bank. So this is the only segment which is profitable. And this segment for sure subsidizes children and the youngsters, that two segments, which are in the banks in a way as segments present as a nurturing the segments, to become a serious or active population clients once upon a time in the future. So in plain words, no money from these two groups. Now, then we have this third, the last segment, which is other people, which may have signs of profitability, but on the other hand, having in mind the digitalization, well, digitalization definitely reduces the cost of direct personal interaction between human beings. So bank employee and the client. And the fact is, and we measure that elder people actually used physical branches the most out of four segments. They were fond of physically, coming into the branch instead of using all kind of, up-to-date digital products like digital banking and payments and cards and stuff like this. So why is that? Well, one thing is for sure that elder people, they're not that fond of adopting new technology. It's a part of their life habit. You need to go to the bank physically to get some things in order. On the other hand, for many people, going to the bank is a kind of social event. My father, who is 85, he is a technology freak, and he uses all kinds of devices, but still goes physically to the bank to pay, monthly bills. And I asked him, why don't you, organize yourself direct debits or something which he understands? And he said, well, you don't understand. I'm a retired guy. I don't have much to do. So going, to the bank every, first Wednesday in the month means that I have, my morning, like tick, something to do. I get up, have my breakfast, go out, do whatever I do within the bank, and then I come back home for lunch. Okay, so his schedule for that morning is done, and this is why he doesn't want to switch to the new channels, because he simply does not know what to do in that time. So digitalization, yes, for segments which are in a way younger, but for older segments, it is quite more complicated. So once we talk about digitalization of retail banking, we have all kinds of services that can be organized in the digital manner. But I liked the presentation, the one before the last one. I forgot the name, where the colleague said, well, a lot of decisions is done, in the middle of the night, and they're done in an automatic way. One thing I do for my parents is that I kind of monitor what they do on their accounts, because I heard from other people the same stories, that other people were somehow tricked into, buying a new set of wonderful, super healthy, I don't know what, super pillows for a great sleep at night at 2 o'clock in the morning at some, TV sales show. And the beauty of easiness to pay just trick them to press the button and spend their whole budget for a month for a set of pillows which are very expensive. So there are people out there who do not have much ethics in their sales effort. They just want to make a quick sell, and elder people, in a way, powered by easiness of doing banking and payments and everything are their easy targets. So all the things are great, but to me, they need to be taken into account with some sort of precaution. There are other things which can be done within the banking for elder people setting. Very important, financial education. And we tried a little bit of this, and elder people, it turned out that they were very fond of coming, somewhere and listening to a short lecture on banking and stuff like this. And a very important thing, which never had time to introduce, but it turned out to be popular elsewhere, is this banking kiosks, which is kind of halfway to what they do or elder people do now. These are kind of points where elder people can come in and do their own digital services, but within the branch where they can be assisted by trained people who are there to help, and of course to prevent to do something stupid. Skip on to what are to me important principles of age-friendly banking. Number one, for sure, to protect older adults from financial abuse. And financial abuse, I also count in that sales of things that they don't need, but they are somehow forced into. Then customization of financial products and services to address their needs, expand affordable financial management, guarantee access to critical income support, facilitate aging in the community, and improve the accessibility of banking for those with restricted mobility or living alone or remote or stuff like this. I skip one and go to the protection from financial abuse, and this can be all done in a digital way. So additional account protection, which would protect people from fast decisions and fast payments, which can be done. So easily transaction holds can be implemented in payment platforms. Like if you pay in the middle of the night, in 12 hours you will get a reminder. Do you still want to make that payment? That would help to prevent a lot of headaches from buying something that you didn't want to buy. Then we have a so-called joint accounts. Elder couples who normally manage their money together. They may have their separate accounts, but you may easily link that two accounts in a way. If somebody pays something, the other person has to agree, has to confirm the transactions. Then we have options of read-only or view-only accounts, so the person can only monitor what is going on. On the other hand, transactions are very limited or due to several confirmations, or forbidden totally and limited only to the direct debit orders that need to be signed up in the bank directly. Different notifications, alerts, and stuff like this, and of course, financial abuse prevention training. Digitalization brought up a lot of opportunities for abusers, for hackers, for people who want to, take money from the wallets of people who are in a way very often short on their money. Let me skip a little bit. What can be done on the other hand on improve of accessibility to bank branch locations and services? That's the other very important thing. Of course, people with disabilities, sorry, it's needless to say. We actually figured out in my bank that we need to designate or train special ed staff who will be there for elder people. Okay, we had actually one girl and one guy, young people who had a certain I would say flair to be able to work with older people. They had all the patience, they were ready to commit all the time they needed to show people how to, let's say, do a certain transaction. We installed a working station there, so instruction could be done, you know, on the spot and stuff like this. On technological side, let's say a normal card, it's very often difficult to read. So we were thinking about designing, you know, cards with bigger fonts so that people, you know, would be able to read, you know, the expiry date and the numbers and stuff like this. A lot of room for enhanced biometric services is here, and other things which would help, of course, elder people. But in the end of the day, as I said, a bank is a business, right? And needs to show at least a little bit of profitability. And as such, bank would not just do these efforts in helping elder population if they don't see this as an opportunity, and they will have to see it. So this will, I believe, go with the flow, but nothing will happen if they don't see this elderly population as potential customer of the future, which would bring in also at least some profitability for the bank. So an opportunity would be the word to take away. I'll stop here. I was probably a little bit too long. That comes from my professorship times. So yeah, I'll be happy to take some questions if there are any.
Is there any question? Yeah, Miss Susanne.
Yeah, thank you very much for this really interesting report. There's two slides that interested me the most. The one was age types or age groups and the profitability for the bank.
Yeah.
Which was, for me, not so clear before, that the elderly people are not seen as so profitable for a bank as younger people. Yeah, of course, they have their income, and income gives money to the bank as well if you have your bank account there. But when I relate this slide to slide number 8, the principles of age-friendly financial services, or age-friendly banking, for me, it would need a self-commitment of the bank, that the bank itself will protect the elderly people by not selling them financial products that are not suitable for them. Because when banks want to make profit out of this age group, we had a huge scandal in Germany about it about 10 years ago, because banks were selling loans, long-term loans, to elderly people who were probably not long enough alive to pay back those kind of loans, just to make more profit from this target group. And there was research in Germany that especially the age group 60 plus has a high trust in their home bank, because as their long-term customers, they don't change the bank easily if they're not satisfied. And so they have a high amount of trust. And when they get sold a wrong or not fitting financial product, there's huge harm taking place. And I think this is the biggest thing to overcome somehow, how the banks can balance the protection of their customers and their need to make profit of them. Or how do you see this from your professional perspective?
Right. So on profitability in banking is in a way quite hard to calculate because once you sell a loan to a certain client, you charge interest in the the whole period. So if you get a housing loan, then the profit of this housing loan would be for the bank expanding in the next 25 or 30 years, and the cost occurs now. So this revenue side of profitability analysis is somehow complicated. But what we did was I analyzed the cost side, and it turned out all the banks in the Western world, they close their physical branches.
Yes.
Why? Because they cost a lot of money. There is people, stuff costs there, and they're physical depreciation, everything. You have to run the whole place. Now we did analysis what our people did in branches, and it turned out that they spent majority of time with that segment 4. Okay. Instead doing something else, or in the end of the day, I don't want to say this, but getting fired and reduce cost. And let's say the most in a way ridiculous thing what happens over here in Slovenia is that on the first day in a month, when pensions come in, people wait in front of the bank's branches to check whether they got their money on the account. Okay, just to check, and this takes, of course, 5-10 minutes. It depends how quick the person is. Okay, and there is a queue in front of the bank, and basically they do this. Some people may raise some money, may do a withdrawal, but a lot of them just come to check whether the pension came in. So what we did, for instance, we offered a service, a normal text message which comes to every phone saying your pension is arrived. Okay, and we managed to reduce this pressure, physical pressure of retired people on branches, and it even turned out that some people like, oh, I got the text message. Well, what is the pension? Putting them on kind of smartphone app would be too difficult. They don't use it. They have their simple Nokia to call their kids and grandkids, but they can get a text message. So this was one effort, a very simple a technological module which you plug in the banking software. It is easy to do, but somebody had to remember this and try this. So I would say that this low profitability is at least in our case was calculated more from the viewpoint of cost, of managing these people, rather than from the revenue side. So to me, the thinking of bank would be how to reduce this cost, but still keep that older population in a way served very well. Okay, and very well, and of course safe, if I may say so. And that would be for me the challenge of the future. Not make them become digital, because they will not. I'm quite sure. I mean, digitalization comes in with the generations which were basically born with their mobile phone in their hand, and for people who grew up, and I'm among those, with the fixed phone on the desk, which you need to pick up and you still dial the numbers. And elder people, this is a science fiction, which I don't see as a very reliable option that will come in the very near future. This is my view, but of course, who knows what will happen. I'm not sure whether I answered your question, but this is how I see the thing.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other question? No? Okay, then thank you very much, Professor Vadnal, for your interesting presentation.
Yep.
Yeah, also we have a chat message also for thank you very much for raising these concerns about financial abuse on the elderly. So this is the message from the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we can continue. I must inform you that unfortunately, Mr. Goran Maric, the CEO of 3Coins from Austria, could not join us today due to health reasons. Therefore, we will continue with the presentation of Ms. Marian Aleson Carbonell, Permanent University Director at University of Alicante, Spain. And the presentation is about e-banking training for seniors, the challenge of responding to seniors' needs. Ms. Aleson Carbonell, the floor
Hello.
is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you, the Define project and all the partners for inviting me today, and especially the Institutional Project Management Office from the University of Alicante. I'm Marian Aleson. I'm the director of the Permanent University at the University of Alicante. This is a center for training seniors, right? People that are older than 50. And that was in my center where the Define project training was conducted. So today I'm going to share with you my reflections about this training, right? And I would like to thank you, Professor Barniel, for his interesting and insightful presentation, because I'm going to follow some of the ideas he has raised, right? Especially the difficulties that seniors come across when using e-banking, right? Because there's not only the issues about the digital competencies that they need to master, but also the use of the digital technology. And obviously, we know that we live in a world where, banks, administrations are moving onto the internet sphere, right? And we need to be technological competent to cope with that, with the fast advances that technology brings us. Obviously, this makes our lives more difficult, especially for people that are older and don't have this digital competence as they should do. Obviously, technology brings a lot of advantages, but it also, as Professor Barniel stated, also creates exclusion and disadvantages for people that cannot access these products. That's why I think training and e-training is very important, because otherwise would be completely excluded of these opportunities that the e-banking can offer us. Obviously, this digital education that is needed is something that has been raised by different administrations, especially, for example, the European Union, that has created and designed a digital education action plan, right? This plan obviously tries to increase the level of competencies in all citizens in the European Union. And these kind of plans, and I would like to raise this issue, should also include seniors and people that are more than 50. There are several priorities, but if you pay attention to what the Digicom plan offers, really the training is focused on really basic skills, right? Data literacy, communication, content creation, safety, and problem solving. But really, the ones that we have been involved in this defined project, what we have found is that also we need other kind of competencies, because when you go and use the e-banking resources, we realize that those are higher stake competencies, right? That we need really kind of high training and education, not only basic competence. And then we arrive to the point in which we focus on seniors, and then we have to raise the question of what is the digital competence these seniors need in order to be able to use all those resources. And that obviously brings a lot of difficulty to the point. That's why administrations, universities, we have tried to cover up this gap and offering seniors with the opportunity of training. And what I would like to thank the Define project for that is that the kind of training that has offered to the seniors is not a training for the future, but a training for the present, because the problem is that all those plans are normally focusing on the future, but the need is really present. So we need to offer a training that could offer the opportunity of seniors to become active citizens involved in the society, but also, and most important, they must be autonomous, right? That's one of the most important things, right? All these applications and resources have to be able to be used autonomously by the citizens. Otherwise, we are not including everybody, and we are excluding a lot of things. So this context of technology, of e-banking, raises several questions for the trainers, right, and for the institutions that we care about the training of senior citizens. And the first question is that if that technology, this e-banking technology, is accessible to our seniors. And obviously, we talk about accessibility. We also must know what they need, right? So they can access that technology. And what are the needs of our seniors? We have a big problem because we don't know, right? If you go to the statistics, to the National Institutes of Statistics, you realize that the majority of statistics stop at the age of 75. So when you want to go, for example, to the Eurostat and have a look at the use of e-banking and e-commerce in Europe, you realize that only 3 countries have data, the others nothing, right? So how we are going to know how to adapt that technology, how we're going to know how to train seniors for that technology if we don't have any data, right? So that's the big question that we have to answer. What seniors need to be able to use that technology. So I'm going to show you the results of 2 projects. One is the SELIT project, and the other is another study by a union of senior citizens in Spain that really focus on that age, people that are from 50 to 100 years or more, and see what are the use of technology, what they need. One is the SELIT project. This project focused on people that were between 50 and 88 years old, but the majority were people that had tertiary education. So we are focusing on people that are highly educated. But even in this particular group of population, we know that only 24.9% said that they don't have any difficulty. So the majority of people, even they are highly educated, the seniors have problems with technology, mainly because they find it very complex, because it's expensive, because they need support, or even because they don't have any interest at all. So obviously, those are the difficulties and the caveats we have to overcome in order to make this technology accessible. If we focus on e-commerce and e-banking, you will see that in their responses, those are the top digital resources that provoke distrust. They don't trust in those technologies, right? That's why they prefer to go to the bank, as Professor Bernier highlighted, right? Because they feel more secure. And this is not because they don't have the competencies, because most of them were professionals that were working with technology. It's because technology changes so much, and there are so many issues about security that they don't feel comfortable. Another issue is the type of device that we have to use. The majority of banks are putting most of the effort on the mobile applications. Even for a simple transaction, sometimes you need to check that transaction on the mobile. When you go to ask the seniors what is the use of the mobile devices, you see that 67% of the respondents do not use e-banking on mobile devices because they don't trust the device. If we want to make a clear idea of how to use those devices for the people that really use technology, you will see that e-banking is used through the computer. The majority, 60.6%, only access the banking resources through the personal computer because they feel that is safer. And just a minority, 25%, do that through their smartphone. Right? So this is another thing banks should realize when they create those applications. In general terms, and I think that this is similar to what the previous presentation said. Why seniors do not use internet when they do not use these devices? Because they don't have enough training, 60.4. That's why projects like Define are so necessary. And others is because they don't have the access or they don't have a computer or tablet. Obviously, there are positive things as well. And the positive thing is that the users are increasing, right, year by year. But most of them are occasional users. And this is also due because of the pandemic, because they feel they needed to use the technology to be communicated and to do certain things. But once the pandemic has reduced this necessity, they have obviously come back to the face-to-face way of doing things. So obviously, all this data, what it tells us for the trainers, right, for the institutions that focus on training, is that if we really want to teach seniors e-banking and technology, we have to focus on utility and not on basic competencies only, right? So we need to really know what they need and then adapt the programs so they really respond to those necessities. That's the first question, right? What is what they need? What is the second question, right? Do we think really that all this effort, right, is getting to the place where we want? Right, and it's really having or giving access to everybody. The answer is no, right? There's a lot of people that is left behind, and also banks should be responsible in such a way, or should have the social responsibility or being aware of who's left behind. And who's left behind, if we take a look at the statistics by this report about the digital divide, prepared in Spain by a union of retired people, the people that are left behind are people that are 75 years old, that only have primary education and that they live in rural areas. Those are people that have not a possibility of access to e-banking and even to e-training. About the spending power, obviously the people with lower spending power are also left behind, 58.9. And about sex cohabitation and studies, we realized that if we focus only on e-banking, we have the group of women that are left behind a little bit, people that are 70 years old and old, people that are living alone because they don't have the support, they don't have anybody to resort to when they have a problem with technology or a problem with financial knowledge. And also, as we said before, people with primary education. So those are the people that are left behind if we continue with this fast development of the e-banking. If we ask the seniors what is the evolution of the difficulty of internet activities, you see what are the top in the rank: e-banking and administration procedures. This is a evaluation from 2017 and 2021, and if you see, you know, the percentage has increased a lot, right? So it's not only that they need to train, it's that things are getting more difficult because technology changes so much that once that you learn something, you know, you need a new learning or a new competence in a few months. So this is very important as regards social exclusion. And there's a third question, right, that we should raise as well. And that was also discussed in the previous conference, right? When we arrive to the point of that we see that this is so difficult, that difficulty is increasing. Some people just, you know, opt for not using that because I mean, it creates anxiety, and this difficulty is so difficult to overcome, right? So is really technology solving a problem, or is creating a problem, right? Are we really solving the problems of people because we make banks more accessible, or we are really putting a barrier so they cannot access the problem? And the second thing, when we do that, and we put people on the verge of exclusion, are we really respecting seniors' rights? Or this is another way of financial abuse, right? In Spain, for example, this is a debate that has been raised, especially by this person. This is Dr. Carlos San Juan. He's a retired doctor, and he promoted a protestation against banks, and the logo was "We are old but not idiots." I mean, this person is a doctor. He has a good knowledge of technology, but he still feels that banks are not paying attention to the elderly, maybe for the reasons Professor Verdian said before, right? So this is something where we have to think about as a society, right? In fact, the European Commission has created a document talking about the rights and principles that we have to maintain in the digital sphere. We should remind that people must remain at the center. Digital technologies are for helping people, not for creating difficulties. That we have to foster solidarity and inclusion. That all this process has to be sustainable. That we also have to care for safety and security, because if we don't care for security, people are not going to feel safe when using these technologies. We also have to foster participation, because we have to have this communication so we know the needs of the people. And finally, a question that's very important: people need to be free of choice. They need to be able to say, I prefer not to be connected. I have the right to get out or not using e-banking. And this is something that banks should realize when they create products, for example, that are cheaper on the web. And if you do it face-to-face, you have to pay an extra task or an extra charge. That's very important for seniors that are depending on pensions that are not so high, right? And so this social awareness of the difficulties and the exclusion of seniors should be taken into account. So finally, just for closing my presentation, I would like as a conclusion to maybe talk about 5 principles, right? That okay, 5 principles that would be a good conclusion for my presentation. One is that e-banking and e-banking training must be centered on the users. The second is that we have to adapt to the seniors' needs and circumstances and the real competencies that they need to use those devices. That obviously banking must be simplified. It has to make things easier, not to become a barrier for those users, especially elderly people. Fourth would be that we cannot substitute human contact. And this is something that has been raised also in the previous presentation. We should foster socialization. And also people need to have the right to be unconnected if they don't want to. And finally, a final one that I think summarizes most of the things that we have raised today is that e-banking, if we want it to be successful, should foster opportunities, right? That cannot be seized or profited in the same way in other contexts. If people, I mean, even elderly people, even people that don't have this technology knowledge, understand and see that these tools facilitate their lives, they are going to learn, right? But if they don't cope, if they don't solve their needs, obviously, this is not an option they are going to take into account. And finally, these new developments, this fast advance of technology should not leave anybody behind. So thank you very much for your attention. And I'm just prepared for your if you have any questions also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think the presentation was interesting and really good to connect it to our project. Thank you also for this. we got one comment in the chat that needs and utility should be the #1 question for every educational offer or initiative, no matter what age or background.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that we all agree with this.
Yeah, you know, sometimes the things that are the simpler than like that, right? I mean, when you say it is so simple, but we need to remember those things, right? Sometimes we make technological things too difficult for people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I can add something to that comment. I wrote it. I think that there's also there are grown patterns of in the whole education field that make it difficult to really live up to a more individualized and needs-based education. It's simply that we many times tend to, you know, put people into one-size-fits-all formats. And this is something that happens maybe not in kindergarten too much anymore, but I would say from primary up to lifelong learning. And I think that's something that needs to change. And yeah, this is, but I don't really see a big tendency yet that this changes. So
not yet, and I think we also have certain assumptions, right? For example, especially around seniors, right? That they are not able. There is this digital divide, and they are not able to cope, and that's not true, right? I mean, the new generation of older people are people that have worked with computers. They know technology. The problem is that maybe they were disconnected of the way technology, you know, was developing, and they can have problems, but they are not like people that don't know how to do things, right? They need to learn, they need the option, they need the access to that learning. And well, I would like to thank the Define project for that, because really the training was very successful, and people, I mean, my students are demanding this kind of training. So I mean, I think we should be responsible, right, as training institutions to provide the things that our students need, and I think it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much once more. Yeah. And now we will continue. There is just 2 presentations left, so that you know. And we will continue with where we actually started today. So with the Define project. You already know about general things about the project, and now we will show you more in detail what we did within the project. We will give you an overview about the trainings that we were developed. Thomas, if you can share the presentation, please.
Yes, I will do so. Okay, is it working?
Not yet.
Oh. Oh.
We have to have some technical issues, you know, otherwise we would think that we can always be just online and that's it. So with having some technical issues, we are starting to even miss more the personal conference in life and so on. So I'm sorry for this.
I'm so sorry. I think I'm very digitally literate, but I cannot influence the power of my machine and the power of my of my internet connection. So I'll give it another try. I had to restart Zoom, so I think it should work now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Right, so keep fingers crossed that it's working now.
Yes, it is working.
Okay, fine. So you see the overview of our modules here, and we will now dive into all the 5 modules briefly, so that you get a deeper understanding and idea of yeah, what were the contents that which we offered. And I hand over now to Anita. She will tell us something about module 1, or is Valeria here? I don't think so.
No, Valeria is not here. I also checked. So the first module was developed by Associazione Progetto Marconi from Italy, but unfortunately Valeria, who developed it, should have gone from this conference because of some other obligations that she has. So I will shortly present the module 1, what we did within the module 1. And the module 1 is about definition of digital financial services. And as you can see, the module is divided into 4 chapters, presenting introduction to digital financial services, presenting main digital payment methods, investments and savings, and savings and digital lending. And based on the content that is included in the module 1, trainees get the knowledge on the basic terms commonly used in digital financial services. They get the recognition on the relevant terms in order to use them properly. They get also the knowledge on basic financial products and services. And finally, they get the understanding of financial terminology and the new terms following the digital transformation. And as all other modules, also this module includes video presentation and PowerPoint presentation materials, and as well also the interactive scenario game as a supporting tool for the learning process. And we can continue with the presentation of the module 2. And the module 2 was done by University of Alicante. So if we can switch to the next slide, then I'm asking you kindly, Noelia from University of Alicante, that you present the module 2 shortly.
Hello, good morning to everyone. Okay, this module, as Anita just mentioned, was developed by the University of Alicante, but by Professor Joaquin Maruenda. And this is a continuation of module 1 on basic terminology of digital financial services. Basically, this module 2 is an approach to financial decision-making for seniors and provides the basis for understanding financial transactions in a more complex environment. The purpose of the module is that seniors understand the importance of preparing, monitoring, and adjusting personal budget as a tool for controlling their personal finances, and that they understand the importance of making rational financial decisions throughout their lives. They prepare also online spending diary, understand the importance of planning and managing financial affairs, and they understand the role of time in the financial decision process, and the importance of maximizing their money according to their profile, risk profile, by making the right investment and financial choices. So, as Anita mentioned, this module also includes a virtual game that has been developed for the special purpose that is focused on preparing a budget. And then there is also the interactive, apart from the interactive game, some quizzes and activities for doing the presentation more dynamic and interactive with the seniors. And well, the idea is that it's useful for the day-to-day life. So when they manage their accounts, they are saving on investing money, buying properties, or applying for a loan, for a pension plan. So this is a very practical module, and we hope that it can be used in future trainings, not only in the within the alliance, within our consortium, but also by other institutions, or not only universities that provide a training for seniors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Noelia. And now we continue with the module 3 that we developed. The module 3 was developed by our university, so by FHU Neom Austria, so the coordinator of the project, and we decided to show this module to you in the format of the video, because as we already said, this is also one of the things that we did within our training materials, and we wanted to show you how these video presentations of each module looks like. Thomas, you can share it, please. We don't hear anything. We just see it.
Okay, that's weird. Let me just check. I think I have to, yeah, when I restarted, I had to, sorry, to change that also the audio is shared.
Thank you very much for sharing the video. So as you can saw, we really tried to include all the most important things regarding the online banking. We also showed seniors how different online banking platforms works. So we used a lot of practical exercises and so on. And now we will proceed with the presentation of the module 4. This will be done by Renate from Volkshochschule Hannover from Germany, who also developed the module 4. Renate, please.
Yes, hello. Okay, as highlighted in the last presentation, safety and security are the most important preconditions for using e-banking. And so this module is a very important module, in my opinion. The participants have to learn how to create a technically secure environment so that nobody else can access their money. And they have to learn what dangers lurk on the internet, how they access their computer safely, and how they can protect themselves in the best possible way. And in a final way, we showed them how what else they need to consider when banking online. Now I will not talk a lot. I will show you what we did in the scenario game, what we developed for all the modules. Different scenario games, of course, for all the modules. And we will present the scenario game for this module now. Okay, now you see the 6 sessions. You can choose which session you want to do, but usually you will start with number 1. I hope it will start. So please start. Okay, you see all the topics we dealt with in this module. And we will start with situation 1, the system update. So you can choose between these 3 options. And I think we will do the right one. Please click the last one, Thomas. You start the update as soon as possible. I chose. So the answer is correct. You get in addition some explanation why it is correct, and then you can proceed to the next one. We will do situation 2. Start. Okay, again, you have to decide which one is the right one, and we will take a wrong one this time. It is someone from, the last one, yeah. I talk with the person on the phone and she reassures me I provide my data. I chose. Okay, and now you see it is wrong, and you get an explanation why it is wrong, and you can try again. Okay, let's take the first one. Okay, we are correct now. Again, the explanation why it is correct and the information. And so we can proceed to the next situation. We will stop it here because we will not do all the 6 situations due to the timetable. It worked similar, they work similar. You see, we have the situation to renew a password, to do a bank transfer, how to deal with suspicious email and wrong debits in the account, how to deal with this. And it works similar, and I think it's a good check if the participants have understood everything or if additional training is needed. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Renate. And now we will continue with the last module that we developed. And module 5 will be presented by eSeniors. That is our French partner who developed the module on definition of alternative payment methods.
Sure, I will present this part. So I'm Isabella from eSeniors France. And yes, our organization created Module 5, which is about using alternative payment methods, which is a subject that it's not often treated by, that seniors are not often used to using and do not necessarily know the terminology. So we developed a module in which we would explain all of that. As you can see, there are 5 chapters. So the first chapter is about presenting the general terminology, as it can be sometimes confusing. The second one, it focuses on the precise methods that we can use. So for example, Google Wallet, PayPal, and others. The third chapter was about the online wallets that we can use and how to use them safely. And also chapter 4, prepaid cards. And the chapter number 5 was about online payments. So basically what we were trying to do with this module was to understand better, for them to understand better what these methods are, and to understand the terminology that will be used so that they can use them themselves. Some of them were really interested about these alternative payment methods during the pilots, and also the knowledge on how to use these methods safely and anonymously in a daily life, so that they can avoid any threats, online threats. Also, we explained to them how to create an online wallet and what they should do to use it safely, for example. And also, we went through the common, some of the most common online scams concerning online payment, as this can also happen when using alternative payment methods. Also, at the very end of the module, we explained to them what prepaid cards were and their utility. And yes, this is a module that was very useful, and it was very appreciated by all of them, as all of the other modules. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to raise your hand, and maybe we can answer them.
Thank you very much, Isabella. And now Serena from Viteco company from Italy, the partner that actually technically developed all the videos and all the games for our project, will present some general things from the implementation of the piloting training that we implemented within the project, and we'll show you where you can find more information about our project. Serena, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Anita. And we will go quickly through the implementation of the trainings and some data related to them. So during the DEFINE implementation, 78 seniors have been trained in all DEFINE countries, and the 32 were the trainers trained in all the countries during the implementation phase, starting from June 2021 until January 2022. And during this training session, evaluation questionnaires and evaluation process have been carried out. And it has been noticed that the overall satisfaction was quite good, because basically the DEFINE project provides something that no other project provides until now. And that all the training materials were considered quite flexible. It means that users don't need to follow all the materials entirely, but also one by one. So the modules are not basically correlated. And the gamification aspect was quite well appreciated, because very practical and helpful. And through the gamification process, it's easier to transfer knowledge. And as you have seen in the game demonstration, the materials in general, but also the games are understandable and easy to read. So very, very well appreciated from a seniors target group. And then the trainer guides provide the clear information and practical tools for implementation of the training. So there is a quite well guide for the trainers for their professional activities. Next slide, please. Okay, I invite you to browse our resources and our channels, for example, our website, in which you can find not just all the information related to the project, but also a section named download and results, in which you can find all the project resources. You can download them and use them whenever you want in a very flexible manner. But then you can also browse on our Facebook page. Please put a like on it, and always keep updated about our news and the project results, and also into the our web YouTube channel, in which you can find also these webinar, but also promotional videos of the project. And here you can find also the contact of the main contact person, our coordinator, Anita, that I wanted to thank you really for your great work so far. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Serena, for your presentation. I think we gave all you a clear presentation of what we did within the DEFINE project. And now we are here for your questions. If there is any, we will be happy to answer them. And of course, as Serena said, we are available always via different channels. You have my email address. You can check our DEFINE website, and there are also other contacts written. So whenever the question arises, just come to us. And we will be happy if you could further use our training materials, or if you will go more deeply into the training materials that we developed. So if for now there is no question, then we can proceed with our conference. And finally, we came to the video that I promised you at the beginning of the conference. It is the video that Senior Lecturer Professor Dr. Lilia Terzieva, Master Imagineering Program Director at Breda University of Applied Sciences from Netherlands, prepared for us. The title of her presentation is Management of Adult Education. So we will just once more remind us why it is important to being in the learning process in all the phases of our lives. And we will share her presentation now. So please watch it, and afterwards we will conclude the conference.
Hello everyone, my name is Lilia Terzieva, and I'm a senior lecturer at Breda University of Applied Sciences, the Netherlands. I would like first to express my gratitude for receiving the invitation by Dr. Anita Maciek from FHU Anneum, the University of Applied Sciences in Graz, Austria, to be part of this amazing final conference of the project DEFINE, a project that has spectacular relevance for the current world and society we are living in. Why so? Because it tackles the issues related to digitalized financial education for a very special group of this aging European society of ours, namely seniors. Why? Because throughout the project development and evolving, it has been tackling these interactive scenario gaming solutions for increasing and improving and adjusting and facilitating the online financial literacy for seniors. The topic that I would like to get you a little bit more on top of is management of adult education. So we will start a little bit backwards and look into what drives adult education. What are the core issues underlying how adult people are basically learning, studying, and acquiring knowledge. What I would like us to dive a bit more into are the needs to know how adults are learning. What are their special requirements towards our educational and training processes? Which would be specific characteristics of theirs so that we know how to interfere and in what way to provide the knowledge and the skills and the competences and the attitudes we would like them to accomplish. And last but not least, to look a little bit more into the specifics of digital financial literacy when it comes to adults, but more concretely to senior population. That is the main target group of Define. Without any further ado, and going directly to the core, there is really something that I would like you to have at the back of your minds. And that is this process of facilitation when it comes to adult management, especially in education. Why? Here we are talking about a group. All people above 16 are adults. It is not just the senior population. And these adults have already prior knowledge. So what they need is not instruction, one-way directive teaching. They need facilitation, mentoring, translating knowledge, and making it easier to be both perceived and acquired. So here we talk about a different role of the teacher and the trainer. The new role of the facilitator, the mentor, and the so-called creative catalyst. Yeah, it sounds a little bit more abstract, but you know what I'm seeing behind. It is really the person who guides the group by the hand. At the same time, next to the facilitation, there is a very important note to be made here. Talking about adult education, we talk about andragogy. And if we would translate that from the ancient Greek, we would see that we talk about leading man. And maybe some of you are thinking, okay, what's the difference between pedagogy and andragogy? And why is it now important to talk about andragogy? And here it comes. Talking about andragogy, we talk about learning of adults, teaching adults, guiding them towards the knowledge and the competencies. And when talking about pedagogy, we mainly talk about children, pupils, and young adults who are prior to their 16th year of age. So andragogy is a different stem into the educational process that we need to be simply aware, very much aware of when trying to work, teach, train, and facilitate educational processes of adults. Why? Why is it so important? We live in a world that we call VUCA. You say, oh, what is this abbreviation standing for? And here it comes. It started with the US Army somewhere in the 1950s. So it's already almost a century ago, correct? And it is describing this very special 21st century of ours. Not just special because of the last 2 years of pandemic, but because of all the developments mainly related to the digitization, the connectivity, the creativity, and the community building we are currently experiencing. Our world is truly volatile. And our adults, so everyone above 16, including our senior target population of Define, experienced change happening exponentially. Information being in abundance, not being very much able to differentiate between fake and trustworthy news. And that is the volatility. We need to somehow facilitate the process of adults to cope up with. The next characteristic of today's world is its uncertainty. And when talking about uncertainty, we truly realize that although we may have 50 diverse plans prepared, there would come a 51, a 52 that we need to be improvising for. And that is something that definitely the senior population of ours has difficulties coping up with. Then there comes the complexity. So talking about simple, complicated, complex, we need to really be aware that it is not about coming up with a single solution, not coming up with a flat tire and knowing what to do with closed eyes, or building the tallest tower, sending people to the moon, and we need the expertise for those complicated issues. We talk about complexity, which relates to poverty, climate change, refugees, energy transition, anything you may think of that does not have just one simple solution. And all of that is something that our adult population also needs to have very good understanding and mastery of. And last but not least, this ambiguity. If we used to, maybe not our population and not even the ones younger than us, but if we would talk about senior people 50 plus and more, then we would simply realize that for them, the world had those different disciplines that usually were not interacting. It was not at all common to talk about multidisciplinarity, cross-disciplinarity, multiple perspectives that reach common goals and understanding. And this is the ambiguity that we also have to understand, especially when it comes to digitization, to financial experiences, and to the way of feeling the master and the person in control of those when it comes to the point of seniors. Having said that, we are now moving to the specificity of adult learners. It is important to say, and I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in the next few minutes about those, but in general, let us say adult learners, so every learner above 16, including these amazing seniors of ours, because this is the wisdom of our society, of our today, they are very autonomous. They are self-directed. They have certain experience. They have certainly knowledge, and they have already a world that they have encompassed into their understanding and realities. These are people with a lot of foundation of life experience and knowledge. They are goal-driven, goal-oriented. They would like everything to make sense when it comes to relevance and are very practical. Last but not least, they really need to be shown respect. It is not like we are molding someone from scratch and trying to think about children and the way they perceive reality with a lot more playfulness, with a lot less prejudice, with a lot less fear of openness and transparency, which comes with age and experiences. And there the need of respect is huge. So what could be the implications of these specific 6 characteristics of our adult learners for managing the adult education processes? When we talk about adult learners being autonomous and self-directed, we need to be aware that in every training and learning process, we need to be involving these participants. We can't just sit there, show some slides, or give a lecture presentation without relating to them, without serving them as facilitators rather than as their teachers, without really first taking into account and feedbacking in interaction the interests of these learners before the training actually happens, so that we can design it absolutely tailor-made towards their necessity and potential. Moreover, when we talk about adults with certain experience and knowledge, with years of career, with really this prominence of where they stand, with really these difficulties in life that they have been able to really master well, we have to understand and recognize their expertise as participants in our learning process. We need to encourage them to bring these experience and knowledge to the surface, because a lot of that can already be related to what we are trying to bring to them. At the same time, Those adult learners, they come to us and they already have a goal. They have very clearly defined where they would like to go. If this would be financial digital literacy, yeah, if they would like to work online with their bank and to manage properly their bank accounts, to see, for example, what it means to go into the world of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and make their understanding of that, that is where they would be aiming at. So, already early in the process of training, we need to show participants how what we are trying to provide will help them achieve this bigger goal of theirs. At the same time, you can even think that financial digital literacy does not just relate to managing your personal finance, but to the understanding of how this evolution in a kaleidoscope evolved from the point of departure of where they started and very well knew what financial literacy means, until what it means today and what it could mean for the future, as an example. At the same time, adult learners, as said, are relevancy-oriented. They would like to see not only the goal they would like to reach, but where the training, the educational process we have in mind and we have beautifully designed relates to the bigger scope of the world trends and developments. So this is also something to position for them to contextualize. And then, as you see here also on this slide, what we think is important and what truly interests our audience, our seniors, will have its match into the process of understanding, learning, and acquiring knowledge that we are going to provide and facilitate for them. The adult learners, do not underestimate them. They're very practical and pragmatic. We need to tell and show. It's not just telling, it's really showing and really allowing them to experiment how everything that we would bring to them will be useful for them on the job, so for anyone above 16, or into their domain of life that they're currently experiencing. It could be post-retirement, it could be just retirement process that it is happening. It could be the way that they would really maneuver with the pension that they will be having and really seeing what that means with everything that comes around their further literacy, be it financial, be it digital, or any literacy that they would like to acquire. Adult learners are there to be respected. I already mentioned, and definitely respect is a two-way street. Why? First, because there is already the knowledge existent. There is this wealth of experiences that these trainers are bringing in. The moment that you realize that it is not just the trainers, but it is also the participants who are there and need to be treated as equals, not as subordinates, that the process of learning actually happens. Then this bonding, the more we age, the more the need of really creating communities is. And if so the case, then how are we making out of a simple training, as we may think in the beginning, something which is really a process that is dynamic, but a process that is relational, a process in which we co-create the learning together. We are not providing content. We are co-creating the learning content together. So what could be good strategies for active adult learning? Now you may think, oh, the process is actually rather complicated, even complex, the way that Lilia is discussing about it. Truly, learning will not be a spectator sport. So it is not for the learners to just sit and comfortably enjoy it, sometimes even have a short nap while the learning around them happens. No. The more actively engaged the learner is, the more learning takes place, the more experimentation, feeling comfortable with it and leaving with your goals ticked and actually making you even more confident and happier. There would be the need of different instructional methodologies which have absolutely greater rates of retention of the knowledge, of the competences, of the skills you would like them to require than just the one-way directive teaching. So how and what would adults then remember? What is their cone of learning? We need to start somewhere back in old China. I see and forget. I hear and I remember. I do and I understand, says Confucius. And this is exactly what comes in so importantly for adults. And you can really see on this very special cone, you can look at it as a reversed pyramid, that actually 90% of what we tend to remember as adults and really making our process an active learning process is this dramatic incorporation into the learning process itself. Think of a flipped classroom process where you as a trainer are leaving the spotlight to those who can show, to those who are just getting the grip of it, but being able to transmit it are even learning it more. So the moment you as a learner become the teacher, so to say, is the moment when you start understanding it, when you are able to convey and transfer the knowledge to others. That is the best strategy when talking about adults. And more examples of how these instructional strategies for adults can happen that the Project Define has very well used, or obviously in terms of the gamification and these scenarios that have been designed, these specific 3 ways: play, do, and act in our instructional strategies. Role-playing and games, in every situation to imagine, to be a performer, not a trainer or a learner, performers together into a common performance. To do in quizzes, cases, with some competitive elements, with some relational elements, without exposure or someone feeling incompetent. On the contrary, with the idea of having entertainment and fun and bringing us closer to the idea of edutainment in general. And last but not least, the specific strategy on acting by means of simulations, participatory discussions, gamified scenarios in which, although you're not even realizing, learning organically happens. So, having said that, where comes this importance of digital financial literacy we are talking about? First of all, talking about adults and seniors, we need to really understand, and this is what this project has had in its focal point and has managed also portraying in its project results, is the convenience and personalization. So for each and every adult and senior in specific, identifying how this financial digital literacy relates to making my life easier, much more convenient, much more understandable and simple. How is it personalized and targeted, tailor-made towards me as an adult learner? Moreover, as said, in these learning processes, in these gamified scenarios, what happens out of this training process of adults, there are communities which are being built. You are not just a name, a number in a training that happens. You are who you are with your own personality. And you stand there together in this co-creative and collective creativity process. And this is what our adults are expecting when it comes to financial and digital literacy, because co-friend will be that friend from that community that you would need to really see how he or she practices and what you could still learn from them and how. The third very specific aspect, the more you go towards this digital financial literacy, is this awareness, this real idea of, all right, this is how the world has been evolving into this kaleidoscope of evolution. And this is where I am with the current knowledge I acquired and with the new one that I'm aiming to get towards. And last but not least, what we said, really arriving into this ambiguity of the new world with a lot more simplicity. So the idea is not to confuse, the idea is to infuse this easiness that everything is still manageable, because the processes and procedures are clear, they are simply digitized and different. And the multitasking happens the moment you understand really the basics underneath of how those different processes in acquiring more knowledge into the financial literacy get onto the level of digitization, and how this again makes your life much more facilitated and much more enjoyable because of what you know. So I hope I have been able to open up some inspiration now as a start of this beautiful Define conference, so that the further topics can be more discussed. Adult learners and their world of understanding. Adult learners and the way they perceive knowledge. And they are able to bring along the performance along an instructional strategy, which consists of the 3 elements: play, do, and act. Thank you very much and good luck.
So many thanks to Lilia for the presentation. And although at the end it was not the first presentation, but the last presentation, I think we got a good structure and agenda of the conference, and that we really increase your interest in the topics that were discussed today. And I'm also happy that we used the majority of the tools that are suggested and were presented by Lilia also in our Define training materials. And with this, we basically came to the end of the conference. So I want to thank you all very much for your participation at the conference. I hope that you enjoyed it. And I think that we all got a lot of important and useful information in the field. Of course, as already said, we will be happy to answer any of your questions that may appear in the future that is connected to the Define project. And please take your time, check the games, check the videos that we did, check the training materials that we developed. And if you are further interested, also check every other results of the project that we implemented. I wish you to stay healthy and to further spread the importance of being financially literate. And that would be all from my side. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Just quickly before we finish, I would like to take the opportunity to thank Anita on behalf of everyone. I think everyone from our team will agree for organizing this very interesting and yeah, I would say broad conference on digital financial literacy. I think it was a great event. Yeah, want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day, and I hope that we have opportunity to meet again also in the future. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.